Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network. The broadcast shows are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not designed to provide listeners with specific personal, medical, or counseling advice. Individuals with a medical issue should always consult their healthcare provider. MS&Me is not responsible for content of individual shows. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own. Enjoy the show.
Hi there, and welcome to this is the 72nd episode of A Couple Takes on MS. Hi, this is Dan Digman.
And hi, it's me, Jennifer Digman.
And we are A Couple Takes on MS. I have relapsing remitting MS, and I was diagnosed about 20 years ago.
And my multiple sclerosis is secondary progressive, and I was diagnosed in 1997. So our radio show is about multiple sclerosis, but Dan and I have two different perspectives on the disease because we both live with it, but we have different takes on it, thus the show.
A Couple Takes on MS, and a couple because we've been married for going on 14 years.
Yes.
Simple math, 14 years. Yes. So what we're talking about today is why we walk MS, and it's about our experiences with the National MS Society fundraiser Walk MS, but we want to, in our discussing, is to encourage you to get involved and to encourage you to share some of your perspectives with us through our website it's danandjenniferdigman.com or on Twitter at danjendig to let us know what keeps you participating? Why do you participate?
Or if you haven't participated, why haven't you? What holds you back? And maybe today in our discussion, you'll realize that this event is perfect for you. Or you'll be intrigued and you'll want to participate or you'll want to volunteer.
And what we've got, because for us, our Walk MS event is coming up in about 10 days.
Yeah, about 10 days.
We are walking on May 11th in Frankenmuth, Michigan, and this will be for us with the Team Monsters will be 16 years that we've walked as a team.
16 years that we've walked as a team. But because we each have been diagnosed more than 16 years, I started walking shortly after my diagnosis. And according to my calculations, this will be my 21st year of Walk MS.
And I was diagnosed in 2000, and so this will be my 20th year.
And that's amazing. And I think the really amazing part about Dan's walk experience is just the support that he's always had. Do you want to talk about that support?
Tons of support from our family and friends, I think, and one of the biggest things is my sister. She has come out every year but one. She drives out from Iowa to participate with me and you in Walk MS, and she raises money back there in Iowa.
And she raises awareness, which is a big part of why we participate in this fundraiser. But I just think that your sister is an amazing supportive family member, and I encourage any of those out there listening to try and emulate Dawn, if that's okay, because
be like my sister.
Be like Dawn, because she's really supportive. And she tells family and friends about the disease, and she always participates, and she's just been a good source of strength for us both.
And one of the things, as we talk about that and the awesomeness that is my sister, and you likewise have incredibly supportive family members, we often talk about multiple sclerosis seemingly being a very isolating disease.
Yes.
And we've encouraged people with social media, with applications like Healthline's MS Buddy, to make those connections. I think with events like Walk MS, Bike MS, which is the bike ride, held for fundraising and everything for the National MS Society, but with these events, in building a team or just making these connections, when you ask people, when you fundraise for this, it's so empowering, and it really helps you. It gets you out there, but you all of a sudden realize you're not facing the disease alone. For the number of people who come forward and provide the financial support, provide personal support, or will say, I'll walk with you, I want to join your effort.
I can't imagine what it's like to have a family member. I mean, my husband is diagnosed with MS, but just to have a family member diagnosed with the disease, for my mom, for my dad, for my brother, what's it like when sister-daughter is diagnosed and there's nothing you can do? I mean, seriously, you can just be emotional support, take me to doctor's visits, perhaps give me an injection or something, but it's pretty powerless as a caregiver, a loved one of a person with MS. And that's why these fundraising events are so amazing, because not only is the person living with MS, am I doing something to help my disease or to help eradicate my disease, but this gives my loved ones an opportunity to battle the disease as well. And so I think, fundraising, yes, it's about the money, but it's also about the awareness and the visibility and just putting your life out there and just saying, yes, we live with multiple sclerosis, either in our body or in our family, and it's not something to be ashamed of. Was it ever like that for you?
No. I mean, for me, I've always been very open and upfront. I don't necessarily introduce myself and say, hi, I'm Dan, I have multiple sclerosis. But when it happens, and I think then just when I, first started walking, for Walk MS and raising money, it was always, for me, overwhelming the amount of support that you get and everything, how people, was it like that for you?
It was, and it has been. I mean, I've, like your sister Dawn, I have amazing support in my family, and I have a physical therapist whose name is Heather. She was my very first PT when I was diagnosed 21 years ago, and I have moved, and she has moved. We still live in the state of Michigan, but every year that woman comes out and supports me and supports our team at Walk MS events, and that's amazing amounts of support that Heather gives, and just shows that she is helping me in this fight. I guess that is really supportive, and I know that it's hard maybe to always talk about the disease and to share with people your stories or your struggles, but this Walk MS event gives you a perfect reason to talk about it.
It gives you that platform to say, this is what it is, to do that, increase the awareness and everything. And with that, it's explaining where the money goes to in terms of MS research and MS programs for patients, for people living with the disease.
Right.
And just how with the money and research we've saw just in the last month or two, just with the 2 new medications that have come out to slow the progression of multiple sclerosis, which we've talked about in recent programs.
The 2 new drugs that are to help relapsing remitting MS, but they're also for more progressive forms of the disease that still have active inflammation, and they're amazing. and Mavenclad.
And
So we have 2 new M&Ms to add to our arsenal of, when Dan and I were first diagnosed, there were 3 medications available to treat the lessen the severity and the progression of the disease. And I even know, and we know people that were diagnosed before those medications existed. And now, 21 years later, those 3 drugs have multiplied 5 times, and there are about 15 drugs on the market. So that's pretty amazing, and that certainly happens through the makers of pharmaceutical companies. But the National MS Society is behind a lot of that research to get these new drugs.
I was going to say, it's just the amount of money, and it's not just for the medications, but just everything else in the research when we talk about things in myelin repair and stem cell therapies.
And lately there's been a lot of talk about diet and how diet impacts multiple sclerosis. In fact, I know that in a recent support group meeting announcement, I had put something about the National Multiple Sclerosis Society linking childhood obesity with multiple sclerosis, or that being a piece of the information that they're studying, and then diet and exercise and activity. The MS Society is constantly looking at lifestyle factors that could help better your life, or that could be leading to your diagnosis. What's the word I'm looking for? Like triggers to the disease,
Yep.
or something like that. So the MS Society helps with the medication creation, or to make that, but they also look at things, research and valuable things like that.
And I think that, we just got done over the weekend, wrote a letter to our Congressman John Molinar, encouraging him, and anytime we go and do advocacy, asking for the government and passing budgets to increase money for medical research with the National Institutes of Health and everything. And so we want them to use government money. It's like, this puts that money, that fundraising, it's in our hands. It's up to us. We can't just sit back and wait for the government to do this. It's like, this is our opportunity to raise the money to go towards this very important research, and also for MS programs like educational programs sponsored by the National MS Society.
Like Finding Your Buried Treasure,
Finding Your
where
Buried
Dan
Treasure.
and I met in 2002.
Exactly, and that's where it's priceless, really. But those programs, and I know that we've had friends in our support group who've received assistance for hand controls for their van.
Or things to make their home modifications. Not huge, extensive grants or something, but every little bit helps when you're living with a progressive illness like multiple sclerosis. And the MS Society is there, and you can call and speak with an MS navigator. I love that term, a navigator, to help you find your way through your diagnosis of living with this disease. And so that's why the National MS Society, for me, is one of the first places that I would refer a friend who is just diagnosed with MS. Or even if someone's living with the disease, when you need credible information and factual and support, reach out to the National MS Society.
And so, I mean, we've talked about then, these are the reasons why we walk. These are the reasons we get involved in Walk MS and the fundraising. So, I mean, Jennifer, let me ask you then, you were diagnosed some 20 plus years ago, and you, right after you were diagnosed, participated. Why did you decide to participate in Walk MS right away? I mean, were you scared to do that, to go and see other people living with the disease, or was that an opportunity for you to see other people and connect with them? So why did you start, and why did you continue, and have you continued to do it all these years?
to be perfectly honest, Dan,
I would like that.
I got involved because this is maybe something not pleasant to say, but I hate this disease. And I hate how powerless it can make me feel. And at those moments when I can gain power over MS, I love it. And from the diagnosis of the disease, it's diagnosed in November, and that May, there was a MS walk. That's what it was called way back in those dark ages. And I thought, this is my opportunity to show the disease, look, we've got power, there's strength. And I went there, and I was scared, but thank God I had a girlfriend, Joanna. She was there. PT Heather was there. My dad was there. And we did an MS walk. And yeah, it was a little scary, kind of like that first self-help group meeting or first support group meeting. But I knew I needed to go to show this disease there's strength, that I will be able to make it through this disease. It's not going to get the best of me. But now, turnabout's fair play, Dan Digman.
Yes, Shannon.
What is the reason that you went to the first walk?
It just seemed like it was the thing to do. I was diagnosed on Valentine's Day, so it was like, early in the year, and I think it was maybe like 3 months later was the MS walk in Midland at the time, because that was more local for me, and it just seemed like this is what we do. I think I was itching to talk about it.
Okay.
I think it gave me a reason to tell people to be open about it. I think that was always my fear when I was first diagnosed, because I didn't want to feel like I was covering anything up. I mean, I didn't want to broadcast it necessarily, but at the same time, I wanted people to know, and that gave me the springboard to be able to at least talk about it, and so I didn't feel like I was hiding anything, and it was, and I had a team. It wasn't even a team. It was just a group of about 5 or 6 of us, and then all of a sudden, which is a team, and then just eventually, you form a team, then you get married after going to a National MS Society program and find the love of your life. But we get married, and we build a huge, solid team.
Yes, and much like multiple sclerosis, it waxes and wanes. Some year our team is 40 people, some year it's 12. But there's always the support underlying. Our friends and our family turn out, and they want to fight this disease. Does it make you feel more in control to be involved in Walk MS events?
Yes, it makes me feel like I'm doing something that you, because your story, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, that this is something, you're doing this. This is your way to physically, mentally, financially put a sting on this disease that affects you, me, and we now know nearly 1 million Americans living with this disease. I just think it makes me feel very not in control. Yeah, in control.
Yes.
Just to where it's like, and again, it's the fundraising, and it's the connections you make. I think we've commented that in years past, because when we go down to Frankenmuth, which is like an hour and a half away, and I think they have usually over 1,000 people at this event.
It's a well-attended walk.
Very well attended, and I think that probably the last 2 years, we've barely done any walking itself. I mean, we go there, and there's just so many people, so many friends you've made and connections over the last 20 years that you truly only see that one time a year. And so we're talkers, obviously, and
yes, and we get caught up in that. And I think, and if it's okay. I didn't really speak with this person and get her permission. But this year's walk is going to be especially special to me because when I was a little girl, my best friend was my next door neighbor. Fast forward 25 years, and she reached out to me shortly after she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And that friend who I think, through the power of social media, reconnected with, she is going to be walking with us on May 11th. And I feel a little like I can imagine my parents felt when I found out that she was diagnosed with MS. I was like, oh, poor thing. And I was scared and I was worried for her. And just to see her and to know that she is battling and tackling this disease head on and she's doing something and she's going to be with me, and I'm really, really, really excited to see her. So I look forward to sharing with everyone out there after we do the walk what that experience was like, is to see her and to catch up.
Well, I'm looking forward to meeting her because I don't think I ever have met her, and I think what a crazy thing that it would take MS to bring, to make that situation happen, or likewise with you and me. I mean,
our marriage.
Took, like we've said before, it's a crappy way to meet some of the most amazing people.
And those connections that you mentioned, since we've shared our story of how we're two people married, both having multiple sclerosis, we've met other couples who are in the same boat, and we've met tons of people who share really amazing stories about how they're living with multiple sclerosis. And the walk, whether it's good weather or crappy weather, we're going to be there, and we'll all be out in full force, raising awareness about the disease and sharing our stories.
And that just ties back. You talk about the connections, and then it just goes back to, with MS feeling very isolating, this just it ties back to just how powerful this is in the connections. I never once have felt alone, and even obviously there's not a lot of people that are dealing with specifically my symptoms and my realities, but just the number of people that can relate and empathize with that, and you see them and you know them and you make those connections. So I think that was probably something that really gave me confidence on the first walk. Is just that I wasn't scared to be public about it anymore.
And that it did that confidence sustain you and make you want to continue walking. Make you, once you do one walk, it's kind of like eating a Lay's potato chip. You eat one, you gotta have another one. You participate in one walk MS event, and I dare say you'll be addicted. You'll want to do it the next year. And trust me, the irony is not lost on the fact that it's a walk MS event, and I've been living with multiple sclerosis for 21 years, and I no longer walk. But I think that right there, in and of itself, is one of the main reasons we both walk, because I am going to walk again, and our fundraising efforts for the MS Society can maybe help find a cure or a treatment. Remyelinating has been in the news quite a bit, and research is being done about that. So I think that this is very empowering.
And I think that, and we've talked about this before, just that when you fundraise, when you raise the money for these events, for the research and stuff, when they come up with a cure for the disease, could happen.
It could happen, absolutely.
Or a new treatment or research for remyelinization and whatnot, just that, somewhere inside you can say, yeah, I helped in that because, I helped to raise the money, I helped to raise the awareness. And so, yeah, it's just like you can say, yeah, they needed you, they needed me, they needed all of you out there who participate in the Walk MS, the Bike MS events. That this is what happens, and that's why with these new medications, I don't know if I'm in the market for those, but it's very exciting that there's developments, that this is happening.
Yes, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you'll understand. It's like having several pairs of shoes. It's nice to have options. And maybe, to compare medication to shoes is like cheapening it, but it's nice to know that we have options, that we can sit down with our neurologist and have choices. And I think that, I remember when I was first diagnosed, a woman in my support group said it's a great time to be diagnosed with MS. And 21 years later, I still feel this is a great time to be diagnosed with MS. And it's a great time to get involved with Walk MS events, or fundraising events with the National MS Society, or just fundraising events for, any MS organization, because it's all going to add up and we're going to find new treatment options and hopefully one day find a cure and a fix like we've talked about.
And I just think, we've talked about connections, we've talked about fundraising, et cetera, et cetera. These events are just, they're just so fun. It is like a mid-morning party, really.
Yeah, like a family reunion of sorts.
It is, and
it's a family none of us really wanted to be a part of, but once you're here, it's a great family to be a member of.
And this is why we walk. I mean, I'm really looking forward to it, and I think you talked about, Lay's potato chips, or you can't do just one, and I really think it's like at the end of every walk, then you're always thinking, okay, this was awesome, and this is what I want to do next year to make it better. And so it's just like just that constant hunger. Hopefully there could come a time where we won't have to do a Walk MS event anymore. And I suppose that's the intent, really. It's like we want to work ourselves out of a disease.
Absolutely. And so check us out on our website at danandjenniferdigman.com, or on Twitter at DanJenDig, and let us know, why do you walk? And if you don't walk, did we inspire you, or did you have a bad experience? Let's share. Let's hear about your experiences.
Because those were our experiences. But thank you all again for listening. Get out there, check your website for local MS, Walk MS events, and Bike MS events near you. Thanks again. We'll talk to you next time. Take care.